Hello everyone, this is White Wolf, and we are going live, and I wanted to talk about releasing stuck energy so that we can appreciate the moment and develop our spiritual mass, which is light within the vessel of who we are. And understanding when we release that stuck energy, we invite more within ourselves while we're releasing the toxins, while we're letting go of limitation, while we're letting go of certain thought forms and certain progressions within our life, and seeing how we think about something before we act on it. Also, just allowing ourselves to recalibrate the energy to find that circuitry within ourselves and to see that when we're releasing stuck energy, we're building for the present moment because we're not focused too much on the future, but we're allowing ourselves to channel the energy of the present here and now. So when we allow ourselves to open up to greater waves of reception, and we allow ourselves to get past the deception of the illusion, the conditioning, and how we go about life itself, and seeing that when we are channeling the energies of the present, we ourselves are coming into balance with who we are because we're releasing those stuck energies, those situations, the circumstances that we attract to ourselves, and also what we're manifesting here and what we're attracting to ourselves as a whole. So when we allow ourselves to really develop the sense of seeing that we have to release stuck energy in order to build, but to see your creation as building blocks, to see it as stepping stones, to see it as a way of quantum leaping into a new reality, and to see how when we release energy, we're letting go of a certain attachment. We're not allowing ourselves to be limited anymore, and we're not allowing ourselves to attract the things that we don't want within ourselves. It's kind of like saying, oh, I don't want this thing to happen, and usually that's the very thing that happens to you when you don't want something to happen. So understanding that is really the art of not caring. It's the art of understanding that you're not a finished product. It's the art of understanding that this is a journey that extends 1,000 lifetimes. But purifying this lifetime is to use your time wisely and to see that you're not based in a memory, you're not based in time, you're not based in how you go about it, but it's seeing that you have a choice and you have direction and you have all the time in the world because you are infinity and you're in the absence of time. So understanding that is that when we remain present with who we are and we're allowing ourselves to channel that within this creation, and we see that releasing the stuck energy allows us to manifest the future, but we're appreciating the present and seeing the present as a gift that keeps on bringing the gifts to ourselves. So seeing that we're tapping fully into our heart, we're allowing ourselves to release that stuck energy so that we're able to tap into something greater than ourselves, and we're tapping into this omnipresent simultaneity that allows us to expand upon the present moment. It allows us to channel the present moment. It allows us to see ourselves in a much different light, and allows us to really go by our desires, our intentions, and how we should be instead of what society thinks we should be. And seeing that when you release stuck energy, you're building and you're giving yourself that emotion. You're giving yourself motion. You're giving yourself action. And you're acknowledging what needs to be released so that you're able to build the future as the present moment, to see that your future is already here and to see that your manifestations are already here as well. And seeing that for what it is and seeing that you can really change how you feel in this direct moment, in this direct perception of this moment, to see that you are the moment itself. And it's just the ability to appreciate the human experience and to not make it brief and to not make it bittersweet and to not make it lacking of anything, but seeing that the human experience can be very sweet if you allow it to be. If you allow the present moment to change for you, if you have allowance for the divine to orchestrate in your life, but also you allow yourself to channel the divine within your own space, which allows you to accumulate more spiritual mass, which is light within your being, because now you're emulating more of the soul, you're being led by the soul, and you're walking in the spirit, and you're talking the talk so that you're able to really make this a part of your life instead of a hobby. So when we really see the things that we can manifest, that we can generate within our lives, that we can really attract within our space, we see that it's not just a hobby, it's not something that we just do, but it's something that generates that rhythm of happiness. because there's a sense of fulfillment there, because when you release that stuck energy, it doesn't allow you to be stuck within that configuration. It doesn't allow you to be stuck at a certain point. There's not a plateau. You're not making yourself feel as if you're a bodybuilder and you can't lift any more weights. So you're able to do so much more when you don't put a ceiling on yourself and you don't put a limitation on how expanded that you become, because you never stop growing when you do meditation. You never stop emulating source energy. You never stop accumulating spiritual mass within your space. So this journey is never ending, and we are infinity, and we have to see that within ourselves to know that it's very much a real thing. So when we channel source energy and we are source energy in this moment, there's nothing that can change, manipulate, or discombobulate what we are as a spiritual entity, because we are an entity of love and light. We are energy. So energy is ever changing, and it's ever growing, and it's ever expanding. But to see ourselves as awareness of the very fact that we are manifesting our future while we're in the present, which allows us to release that stuck energy. It allows us to release those cords that are binding us. It allows us to release past lifetimes, but it also allows us to release emotions that generate those thought forms, and to see that thought form for that moment, and to see, before you act on something, before you do something, before you allow yourself to do something, you see that it's not a very thoughtful thing to do. But we have the ability to choose our thoughts. That's the messed up part about it, is that we have the ability to literally choose our own thoughts. A lot of people don't think they have the ability to do that. They don't think they have the ability to choose their own thoughts. They don't think they have the ability to heal, or to receive, or to let go, or to feel like they can't break free from the chains that are binding them. So it's like the ability to see that we are more than what we think we are. We are actually more than we think we are. We just think in a certain way, and we think small, so that we're not able to see the worthiness and the big picture of what's going on around us. There's so much beauty on this earth, but if we fail to see it, then we are missing out on life and having our way with life. Instead, we're having life have its way with us, when we should have our way with life. And seeing how we can accentuate and articulate the situation, that we can see that releasing stuck energy builds the present, so that you are manifesting the future, so that you are totally ditching the past. And the past could also mean 20 seconds ago. It could be 20 minutes ago. So the past can be many different definitions. It could be many different depictions. So the way that we release the past is that we integrate how we felt in that past simulation of that moment. So you almost have to feel like you're in the future while you're in the present. So it's this ability to kind of be in the future, be in the manifestation of it, making everything parallel, and seeing that everything that we're experiencing, rather it's our thoughts, rather it's our emotions, is energy, and it is generating something, because it's called projection. So our input and our output has a very big indicator of who we really are and becoming in that moment. It just started to get cold out here. But I wanted to welcome you guys on this live. We're going to be doing some healing energy, helping you with that stuck energy. But I have a message coming through very strongly. And when I have these messages come through, it's not very specific, but it's general, and it's kind of an update and what I'm feeling in the collective and what we're experiencing here and now. Emotional sensitivities are accepted. Your emotions are accepted. Crying is accepted. You releasing that stuck energy is accepted, but we don't find acceptance in it all the time. We don't find acceptance in it because we feel that it makes us appear that we are weak, but it actually means that you're developing the strength within your spiritual muscles so that you're able to get through and roll with the punches of life. That means that it's molding you, it's molding your character, it's helping you tap into your heart. It's actually allowing you to lose the deception of the mind, because we have to break the habit of being ourselves. So that means we're breaking the habit of being ourselves, but we're accessing that higher self. So that means a different version of ourselves. That's called reinvention, that's called self-remembrance. And it allows us to remember that by releasing stuck energy, it means that you're done with that specific way of living. So it changes the way you see, it changes the way you live, it changes the way that you experience life as a whole. And you see that your transcendental consciousness kind of kicks in, and your guidance mechanism, which is your emotional guidance system, but also your senses, your triggers, everything that's around you kind of lets you know, and it's kind of like a ding, 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 or a light bulb above your head. I don't know if you've ever seen those TV shows where you would have a light bulb under your head and you would have that epiphany that the way I'm going about this may not be the way that I should go about it. But we have to learn, and we have to go through experiences in order to understand it. But to change the experience altogether is you being the painter of your life. And you don't have to finish that Picasso in 20 minutes. Rome was not built in a day. Manifestation sometimes does not happen in a day. So a lot of the times we're always trying to force feed ourselves the manifestations that we're really wanting, but instead we already have them, and they're already in creation, they're already in our vortex, they're already there, but we feel just because they're not right in front of us, then we get upset. And I'm kind of pointing at myself because I've let this happen to myself. That's the only way I'm able to give this message and to be non-dual and to not have an agenda about it, because we all do this, whether we like to admit it or not. So it could be something that your husband or wife does that triggers you and it just kind of like bugs you. But why does it bug you? We don't take a step back sometimes, but because we're reactatory beings and we learn how to be proactive towards everything that we're experiencing, then we kind of take things in perspective and see that because I'm going about this in this way, it does not mean that it's always going to grant me freedom or allow me to access that freedom. How do we access that freedom? It's the ability to accept the freedom, is to accept the reflection, is to accept that you are prosperous. And just because you only have $1,000 in your bank account does not mean that you can't have $100,000 in your bank account. But if you always see that $1,000 being very lowly, giving it a negative connotation, giving it a negative experience, that $1,000 can't be prosperous. So if you always look at your bank account or yourself insignificant, that always breeds unworthiness and conditioning so that you're stuck in a certain paradigm. So to take yourself out of that is to just release yourself and deliver yourself from that. But also you can be delivered from it from a guide, from your higher self, but also from other beings and God himself. Or if you view God in a certain way, and if that kind of triggers you, just know how you view God is how you view God. Just because I say himself doesn't mean that you're wrong. And I think that's the one thing that's very powerful. When you live your life in a constant state of flow, there's no justification for it. There's no right or wrong. There's no, but I said this and White Wolf said that. It's none of that. Because then you don't have to justify it because you know that you're living in it. And whatever I say that doesn't resonate and you kind of throw in the trash, but the things that you do resonate with will be very impactful for you. But that's the ability to see, like, the manifestations that you want may not be the manifestations I want, but it's your life, it's your creation, and it's for you to do what you want with it. But we don't even give ourselves the permission to have the ability to do the things that we really want with our creation. That's the kicker. Sometimes when you put that thing off for like 2 weeks, that's stuck energy. Or when you don't make your bed, that could be stuck energy. Sometimes I, can do that, but I'm getting better at that. But the thing is, we're not perfect. But it's kind of like we can withhold stuff from ourselves when we put stuff off. Or we're looking at something, but we don't want to look at it. Or we know that we need to leave that job, or we need to leave that person, but we continue to stay with that person and that soul contract that's not helping us release that energy, so that we're releasing that so that the stuck energy is allowing us for more adventures within our life. So it's kind of like sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and sometimes most of the time it's not other people. Sometimes it's the person that's looking at you in the mirror. It's the person that's looking at you in the mirror that we have to deal with. And, it doesn't matter what chaos is going on in the world. Don't matter if people are loud or there's so much chaos and stress in your life. if you were going through it and you weren't strong enough to handle it, you wouldn't be going through it. I said that on my last live, but sometimes, when I do these every day, I do repeat phrases and stuff. We are strong-willed beings. We go through trauma, we go through challenges, we go through life so that we're able to walk with the Spirit and trust the Spirit and have the divine obedience of that Spirit so that you're channeling Spirit. Does that make sense? And sometimes I love that you said that. Like, I needed to hear it again. I watched this message from Tony Robbins that's 50 minutes long, and he gives like a master class of 1,000 years of knowledge in 15 minutes. And sometimes I just need to hear that message again. I need to hear it over and over and over. Because sometimes we need subtle reminders, and that's what it really is. That's the point of this whole message, is that sometimes you just need to give yourself subtle reminders so that it has a big impact in your life of what you really need to release within yourself. Releasing stuck energy allows you to have big breakthroughs. Those breakdowns turn into breakthroughs, and you start to see a great change in your life when you get through those moments of healing, of learning, of really gradually just growing stronger within your meditative practices. But also, it could be just your relationships or how you react to things, how you go to the store and not come back feeling really bad. We all have to deal with that, going to the store, and there's energy everywhere, and that's just something we deal with. But it's kind of like developing that strength within ourselves, is that if we're a prosperous energy, if we're an energy that's emulating that spiritual mass within ourselves, that light, and if we are that prosperity, those good emotions, that love, that sense of peace, that sense of drive, that sense of emulation, then we should be able to go everywhere and emulate that. But some days I've even manifested stuff where I felt like absolute shit. So I'm not saying that you won't manifest stuff just by feeling good all the time. I think that's a little ridiculous to even say that, because I've manifested stuff feeling like absolute shit before. And I'm just being real, and I don't want to sell you some superfluous bullshit. And it's really just being real to the people who you're relaying to. And it's being real, but it's keeping it to the point where it's relatable. If you're failing to relate, or if you're failing to get that familiarity with others and also within your life, and it's not always a point of relation, but it's a point of just kind of knowing. When you know in your heart's desire that you need to do something, or you know that you need to look at this thing, and sometimes it comes very abruptly. That's what's beautiful about the divine. Have you ever been walking around your house? Sometimes you put your hands on your head and you're crying and you're releasing and you're just kind of pacing. But then after it, guess what? You're laughing, you're charismatic, you feel so much different than you just did. That's the powerful rejuvenation of that healing energy. But the reason why it happens, and the reason why it happens so fastly, it could mean that you're fast tracking. It could mean that it's just something that you need to break off with you. And it means that you're loved. If you're not if you're a person that's just kind of in their own bubble, and then you put something inside of that bubble, and then they get all frazzled, that's someone who's spiritually bypassing, and that is very dangerous. It's very dangerous because, guess what? You'll hurt a lot of people. You'll be mean to people. You won't be able to get outside of your box, right? But that's the beautiful thing about release, because it builds the present so that you can attract your future, and your future self is already looking at you, and it's just waiting for you to accept it. So then that you're able to handle more, that you're able to go along the journey with a sense of maturity, with a sense of wisdom, with a sense of peace and love and generosity, and just kind of walk in your own eminence. And it was so funny. I think a lot of people should watch the show The Young Pope, because there's this scene in The Young Pope where he walks around and he's like on the beach with the Speedo, and he walks like in his eminence, but the women are not looking at him as if they want sex from him, but they're looking at God emanating through him as he's walking on the beach, and he's just walking, kind of having a good time and just walking in that glory of that Shekinah glory of God's source energy. And it's not looking, it's on HBO Max, The Young Pope. I think everybody should watch it. Because in the first scene, before he starts walking, he goes up to this woman, and she has a cigarette in her bikini top, and she pulls it out for him, and she lights the cigarette for him, but it was just kind of like she blessed him, right? But she wasn't looking at him in a lustful way. Like, none of the women were looking at him in a lustful way, but he was just walking in his like grace and his anointing and his eminence. So it's kind of like he wasn't wanting anything out of anyone or anybody, but he was just there walking in the state of being that he was, and emulating that, and not having any expectancy, but just walking in the glory of it. And that's what the whole point of this message was, is not having unrealistic expectations out of yourself, but just the ability to have allowance towards everything. When we have allowance, then we're able to receive, and then we're able to let go, and then we're able to punctuate who we really are, but penetrate the things that are lost in that needle in the haystack that we need to find within ourselves, that give us that subtle reminder, right? So we pull that needle out of the haystack, and it kind of gives us that moment like, oh, that's been tucked away so long. It could be childhood trauma. It could be, things that we go through along the journey, or failed manifestations, or even emotions that we have that haven't fully integrated. And it just means that you're coming closer to it, but you're actually perceiving it. When you acknowledge it, then you're not running away from it. And sometimes it just takes the ability to receive. So we're going to do some healing energy. So if you guys want to receive this healing energy, also I have announcements as well. I have announcements. I will be going live around 8 or 9 o'clock doing readings, healings, activations, divine readings. And also I do have private sessions that you can book for $50 for an hour. And I also have an hour and 30 minutes for 100, and then 2 hours for 150. That's a new video that I'm going to post. But we're going to do some healing energy right now. So if you want to experience this healing energy to help you release stuck energy, stuck emotions, also just the feeling of being stuck and alone in your life, feel free to receive. Allow ourselves to tap into the emotional guidance system. Allow ourselves to perceive our emotions, to look at our emotions, to not run away from our emotions, but to see that they are guidance. We're releasing so much. We're releasing so much toxins, so many past lifetimes, unhealed emotions, childhood trauma, so much that we forget to allow ourselves to experience it. We don't give ourselves that moment of acceptance and grace a lot of the time. But once we do, and allow ourselves to access that, that means we let go. And as we let go, and as we release, and that it comes out of ourselves, then we integrate the light back within ourselves. So therefore, there's a balancing of the masculine and the feminine, but the inner child reinforces itself, which is the gut instincts. The divine feminine is the heart, and the divine masculine is the mind, which develops that twin heart within yourself. And then you're able to tap into that sacred geometry of Metatron's cube and downloading that, of fertility, of release, of healing, of integration fully within oneself. And then this is using the law of subtraction. Subtract everything out of your space that is not meant to be there, out with the old and in with the new. And then once you add within your space, you're able to have a multiplicity activation. It's that spontaneous recognition of the omnipresence of Source, which is simultaneity. And then as we do the Kundalini energy, then this allows us to be more grounded, but allows us to have quick release and then rejuvenation. And then we allow ourselves to ground deep within Middle Mother Gaia Earth, so ground into the earth. Archangels of Love and Light, who's willing to cleanse us of our auric field, tapping into God's Source energy and the Great I Am, diving deep within Middle Mother Gaia Earth. And receive a heart activation from Jesus as well, helping you with purity of heart, with patience, and being able to demonstrate the wisdom of the Ascended Masters. I hope nobody feels like a lost cause during the healing energy. But if you feel lost, you are found. If you feel misunderstood, you can be understood. And knowing that the only love that we can give is unconditional. And when we allow ourselves to have that sense of sensibility, to be aware of our triggers, but to use them as guidance, to use them as stepping stones, and to use them of how we can really release, but also intend upon using different emotions so that we're attracting different circumstances to ourselves, and that we are also allowing ourselves to release the toxins that are not of the spirit. And walking with the spirit will cost you a lot of things, but it's costing you all the things that are limiting you. So not having unrealistic expectations of oneself, but being able to just walk in your eminence, be in your grace, be within your own space of energy. And then those breakdowns turn into a breakthrough. And then you develop something I call flow, which generates momentum, and you allow yourself to teleport into those future manifestations by bringing them into the present. And allows yourself to be very bold to make decisions that used to scare you. And it just allows you each day to just get better, to improve, to reflect, and to reinvent oneself. And it's just giving your life to God. It's giving up to the divine. And it's just setting the precedence for what you can create by releasing that stuck energy. And it's just that simple. It's just allowance. It's a lot of dedication, but also it's just a lot of consistency in our vibration. So allow yourself to take a very deep breath, your last deep breath, and just take a deep breath. And when you allow yourself to come back to, you'll have a greater sense of clarity, you will know who you are, and you will be the Oracle of Loveline Wisdom. And when I snap my fingers, you'll have all your chakras recalibrated, and you'll have a full coherence, a heart coherence, and you'll just allow yourself to be cleared of that stuck energy, to be delivered from that stuck energy, and just the ability to receive even greater once again. And so it is. So that was the healing energy. I've been more inclined to do the healing energy because I feel like a lot of people need it, and I feel like it's been kind of on my heart. I did a meditation yesterday, but I do lives every day, so I have to switch it up every now and again. But releasing stuck energy allows us to manifest our futures. It allows us to see who we really are, but also it allows us to push ourselves. It allows us to get past all of the murky waters and allows us to go into the uncharted waters, and allows us to see that if we really go by our heart, not by our limitations, not by our emotions, not by what we assume ourselves to be, but what we actually are, because sometimes our assumptions can lie to us. Sometimes our emotions are not true. It is the ability to use them in a positive light. It's the balancing and the reinforcement of changing it from a negative to a positive. So that's polarity. So it's changing the scales, it's changing the polarity of it, it's changing the action of it. And when we release that, that allows us to be more whole, be more true, be more aware of who we are. So when we have the ability to do that, then everything starts to really change because we're accepting transformation, we're opening up to the transformation, and we're seeing the transformation as a real thing. But just love yourself. Love yourselves, accept yourselves, and accept that releasing that stuck energy builds the foundation and the structure of generating the future within the present. And I don't know if you see it out here, it's a really beautiful day. I've been doing my lives out here, and I just love like the background, and you also see the flowers that I water every day. And I just wanted to do this because I felt like it was very needed, and I felt like when we give everybody subtle reminders in the collective, when we remind each other, like where we see something on television or we listen to a song that we haven't listened to in a long time, and we get the subtle reminders that there's just things that we need to do. There's things that need to be done, and there's things that need to be released. And I had such healing last night. I was in my room kind of pacing back and forth and just releasing, just really getting upgrades and tapping into the heart. And we are really strong with the tenderness of our own hearts. A lot of people don't think that. You know, you have a lot of these videos of motivation. I'm all about motivation and, you know, getting it done. And sometimes, you know, I have to do stuff like that. That's the masculine, but we also need the balance of the feminine. And we also need the imagination of the inner child a lot. So I want to thank you guys. You guys can book private sessions. By the way, I'm going to be posting a video after I'm done with this live about my new private session pricing for more additional time. So I have $50 for an hour for psychic readings. Hour and 30 minutes will be $100, and then 2 hours will be $150. My regular prices were about was like $200, but I wanted to do the special with you guys to see if you guys would be able to have additional time with me so that we can work together, so you could receive readings and maybe energy work. And that's usually what happens a lot, because I hear what my clients need. And you know, sometimes you need information, but sometimes you need kind of energetic boost or releasing, and it's in my heart's desire to do that. So I will be posting that on the video, and I'm going live at 8 or 9 o'clock doing readings for you guys. So I hope to see you guys there, and I'll be doing that every night. I'll also post a new video as well, letting you guys know that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, I'll be going live doing readings, healings, activations at Eastern time zone. So I know I say that and then you're like, what time zone? It's Eastern time zone. So I get ahead of myself a bit. But I want to thank you guys. God bless. Namaste. And I think I'm good. So God bless, guys. See ya.